a true deep breath, focusing on location rather than volume. So that's the plan for today, but as always we'll start off with our movement to create that space for a true deep breath. So coming up to standing and finding that space, so you've got some space forwards and backwards, side to side. And my microphone's a bit twisted. Let's start off with knocking. Can't believe suddenly how dark it's gone. Already it's 8 o'clock and it still looks like middle of the night here. With the lights on a bit, it does anyway. So the idea of this is that we just get in that movement through the spine, the rotation through the spine. And keeping that spine tall, long. Imagine that you're just being gently lifted by the crown of the head. And we're just breathing naturally in and out through the nose. And the arm that swings across the front, we're just going to bend the elbow a little bit more. We're going to bring it into a light fist. And we're going to tap. Now we're not going live on Instagram. Keep going, you're just tapping on the lung point. So just above the collarbone, just where you imagine like the tip of the lung is in the chest cavity. And then you're going to bring that hand across the front of the body, make a little cup shape with it, and we're going to go right into the shoulders. It's a really good one. Big muscles, the top of the shoulders. And of course, if anything hurts, if you have any pain, you don't do it. You just stop, or you do it a little bit gentler. Notice that we're still driving from the hips and the waist. You're driving a little bit more through the ground, through the hips and the waist. Back to chest. Gets all the blood flowing, lymphatic drainage, energy flowing. And then back to belly. Gradually slowing that down into waterways. So adding that little bit of resistance, going into slow motion, dropping a little bit lower, bending in the knees. And then taking a moment just with the palms facing down towards the ground. So a little bit of softness in the elbow there. Almost like connecting through the palms into the ground. Keeping the spine long and strong. And then we're just going to bring our hands onto those lower ribs. Make sure you're not on the waist. So you're going, finding your sternum, coming round. You can feel underneath the ribs there. And just resting the hands on the side of the ribs. Get your thumbs in the back there, so you can feel the lower ribs there in the back. And I just want you to take a few slightly fuller, slower breaths, just so we can feel the response here in the ribs as you're breathing in. And then as you're breathing out. Just calm breaths in. And gentle breaths out, just letting go, in and out through the nose. And see if you can feel, as you are breathing in, that lateral expansion. So the ribs just slightly, it's not big movements, but just slightly pushing out to the sides a little bit. So slightly fuller and slower, just to exaggerate the movements, just so we can really get that diaphragm working. And then keep going with that and just bringing your focus now into the thumbs, into the back of the body there. Can you feel a little bit of movement there? So the thumbs slightly pushing out a little bit. It's not massive movement. See if you can breathe into the back. Just slightly slower, fuller breaths, just to really accentuate the movement. Expansion as you breathe in, and then as you're letting go, that softening and contraction as you breathe out. If you are not feeling it in the back, quite often why that is because maybe these, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but maybe your ribs here are pushed forwards a little bit because we're standing up straight and pulling the shoulders back. And that tightens all of this area here in the lower back. So if you're not feeling it in the back, bring these ribs in. Don't worry if you come a little bit arched here to start off with, because we can work on lengthening here in a minute. Bring those ribs in, breathe into the back. Just follow 3 more breaths, feeling that 3-dimensional movement, that expansion, side to side laterally, maybe a little bit of a lift and a little bit of expansion in the back. And then when you follow those 3 breaths, have a little bit of a shake out. Shake your legs. And then again, shoulder width apart with the feet. We're going to do that spine roll, which I quite like. It's like a mini full body flow. You're tilting the pelvis forward, so you're spilling out the front of the pelvis. That brings the spine with it. Chin comes forwards, then you roll down, and then you tuck the pelvis underneath. So you're leading again from the pelvis. Tilt the pelvis forwards. You have a little bit of softness in the knee, but keep those legs extended so that you get that nice encouragement of the hamstrings just to lengthen out a little bit. Make sure you're nice and wide on your stance, about shoulder width. And just breathing easy, breathe naturally. I'm going to show you just from the side so you can see. So I think I'm in line with the camera there. Tilting the pelvis forwards, that spine raised forwards, and then you tuck in the pelvis underneath and coming back up. Should feel good. As always, if there's any pain, you stop. Breathing should be light, easy, effortless. Let's do 2 more. And then take a rest. That little bit of a shake out. Let's come into a position where you've got your feet maybe slightly wider than shoulder width apart and just resting on the thighs, but not putting loads of weight on the thighs, just resting on the thighs. Make sure you're not pressing on the knees. So you can go onto the thighs, which is absolutely fine. Open up the top of the shoulders, so make sure we're not tightening the shoulders. And just in this position, you can breathe into the back. So just feel that space where you had your thumbs when we were standing like this, just breathing into the back. So take that slightly slower, fuller breath into the back. Just keep it in and out through the nose. Let's do 2 more, slightly fuller, slower into the back. See where you can let go, because often we're holding and holding and then you go, oh, I've just found a bit of space there. So see if you can let go, breathe a little bit more into the back without forcing anything, of course. We're not forcing the breath, can't hear the breath. I'm not doing big, hard breaths. And we're going to do now, if you need to, just come up and have a little bit of a shake. So we've done just some very gentle breaths there. Now we'll do some active exhales in that position. We've done it before, if you joined the sessions before, that breath of fire. So when we breathe in, the breath just naturally flows in through the nose. And then we're using the mouth to push out. So you imagine where the diaphragm is here. Diaphragm moves down as you breathe in. You're actively bringing that diaphragm back up. So you're pulling in the belly. But when I say pulling in the belly, I don't want to think about using all of these superficial muscles. See if you can go really deep. And actually, when we're in that position, it's going to feel a little bit easier. Let's do 10 sort of like rapid fire, breath of fire. Now, just be aware, because we've been a little bit more active with the breathing, if you have any blood pressure issues, if you've got any cardiovascular issues, avoid this if you are pregnant. We don't want to do anything that's stressing necessarily the nervous system, the cardiovascular system if you're pregnant. So just take this easy. You could do it very gently if you wanted to. You could just go, but as long as I just want to get that little bit of focus on the diaphragm moving down as you breathe in, which you don't have to think about. And then it comes back up into that resting position. So in this position here, free up your shoulders a little bit. Just let the body settle, let the breath settle. And then we're going to do 10. I'm going to do it rapid, but if you want to do it a little bit slower, do it a little bit slower. That's absolutely fine. So we'll do it together. Take a nice, calm, full breath in through the nose. And then just let that breath settle. Just go back to light, slow, easy breathing. And as I say, if you wanted to do it a little bit gently, you could just go just so we get that activation of that diaphragm, that the diaphragm is moving back into the rib cage. That's what I want you to sense. Let's do one more set. You can do slow 5 or quick 10. So breath in through the nose and fire. And then just let the breath settle. And then we'll do one more round. Slow 5 or quick 10. Calm breath in through the nose. Feel the breath into the back and then just let the breath settle. And taking your time, just very slowly straightening the legs, no rush coming up, palms facing forwards. Let's just do a little bit of pulling down. Gentle breath in. Gentle breath out. And we're going to find a spot which is, there's your navel, there's your belly button. You're going to find a spot which is about 3 fingers down from the belly button. And we're going to create a little bit of pressure there. Now, if this feels uncomfortable, if you just had a massive big breakfast or your tea or your coffee, don't want to be pressing too hard there. But if it feels comfortable, you can just put a little bit of pressure there on the lower abdomen. And I want you to feel how this area responds to that pressure as you breathe. And the key word there is respond. I'm not trying to breathe with my belly or using any of these muscles in the lower abdomen to breathe. I'm just noticing how this area responds to the in-breath and out-breath. And again, you can just take slightly fuller breaths just to bring that awareness. So as you are breathing in, can you feel the pressure of the diaphragm moving down, gently pushing the fingers out? And then as you breathe out, the fingers sink back in. So what I want us to take away from today is the difference between a deep and a big breath. So here's a deep breath. So you can breathe the thinnest thread of air and feel the response deep, as in location, in the body. You can breathe the lightest volume of air, but you can feel the response deep in the body. So when we're wanting to keep calm and take deep breaths. It doesn't necessarily mean big breaths. Here's a big breath or a full breath. Here's a deep breath. So a few full breaths is a really good way of cleansing and clearing. We know that. We do our cleansing and clearing. But if we're constantly taking more air in than we need, we disturb that balance of carbon dioxide, oxygen, and we start to reduce oxygen delivery. So we become less efficient in delivering oxygen from the blood into the cells. So just take a few more moments just focusing on that true deep breath. So when we do our seated practice, when we're focusing on light, slow and deep, this is what we mean. It's not about volume. In fact, light is reducing the volume. Excellent. Let's take a seat just for the last few minutes. We'll do a little bit of work seated. So let's do dog wags the tail sitting down, because this is quite a fun one. Now make sure you have got a stable base though, because if you're sitting on a sofa or you're sitting on a chair that wobbles a bit, just go careful on this one. But if you've got a nice solid chair, can you do this on the floor? I've never even tried it on the floor. I suppose you could do it on the floor. But if you've got a nice solid chair, you can get your cheekbones, your bum cheekbones, your sits bones really in contact with the ground or the chair, tall through the spine. And then if you're shifting side to side, I'm moving my spine and my spine is going with my sits bones. But we don't want to be doing that, because then we get in no wave through the spine. So you want to shift the weight and then free up the spine. Really nice, just breathing light. And then slow it down. It's a nice way just to settle into some gentle focus and awareness on the breath. So nice and stable on the surface that we're sitting. Tall through the spine again without becoming rigid. And let's just bring our awareness to the face muscles. And particularly bringing the focus into the brow. So just softening and relaxing into the brow. Softening and relaxing into the eye sockets. And if you want to close your eyes, that's fine. If you want to keep your eyes open, not a problem. Softening and relaxing into the eyes. Softening and relaxing into the cheekbones and the jaw. And just lightly resting the tip of the tongue just behind that ridge on the roof of the mouth before the teeth. Just lightly resting the tongue there. And then feeling the physical sensation of the air just as it flows naturally in and out through the nose. So not trying to breathe in any particular way, just feeling that physical sensation of the air flowing naturally into the face. And this is where the idea of the inner smile, that focus from Qigong, is nice, because it just opens up that space in the face. Really relaxing into the face. And then softening into the chest. So a nice way to think of softening into the chest is breathing into the heart. Just noticing how the area responds, letting go in that area, not trying to breathe in any particular way, just softening into the chest, breathing into the heart. And then moving down, softening into the belly, that point that we've just been focusing on, standing. Just below the belly button, just soften there. And if you're sitting on a fairly hard surface, it's nice because you can soften into the hips. It's almost like breathing into the hips. Again, it's remembering how these areas respond to the breath, not trying to breathe in any particular way. Breath is just natural. And then just for the last few moments, see if we can just slow the breath a little bit. So just slowing your breath. So each breath, because we slow, will be slightly fuller, but see if you can keep that volume down. So see if you can keep the volume of air down or light and slow. And then you can feel that physical response deep in the center, in that point that we were focusing on. And can we slow a little bit more without it being stressful? If it starts to become a little bit stressful, if it's too controlled, or if you create any tightness where you don't need it, just take a rest. But see if we can keep it light and slow and deep. And then just following 3 more breaths. And then taking a slightly fuller breath. Opening your eyes if you have your eyes closed at the top of that full breath. Maybe just having a little shake, a little stretch, a little twist. It's always important to remember breath work suggests we're doing loads of stuff or you're working at the breath. And of course, we've just been doing breath of fire. There's lots of breathing practices that are deliberate counts, etc., box breathing. But never forget the fundamentals, just that taking a moment just to breathe the least amount of air. Breathe very light, slow the breath a little bit, but still keep that, keep the depth of the breath as well, because that's very calming. It should be very relaxing. So throughout the day, you can take just a couple of minutes just to take that moment. And it's a really nice way of just putting the brakes on a little bit, down regulating. You don't need an app, you don't need me telling you what to do. You can just take a moment, sat outside watching the rain or watching the sun or whatever works for you. Excellent. thank you very much. Sorry for the slight delay at the beginning there. And I will see you on Wednesday for more of a movement practice. If you have any questions in the meantime, give me a shout. If not, I'll see you Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye. Good to see you, Yvonne. Looking forward to seeing the place on Wednesday. See you later.